How's it going, YouTube? I'm headed out on this beautiful Sunday afternoon to do a little bit of Ozark history for you. We are headed out to Riverdale. It's kind of a unique spot, kind of hidden a little bit south of Nixa and Springfield. So Riverdale's history goes all the way back to 1843. It was bought by a guy named Benjamin Hooton, who I'm going to guess has some relation to the Hootentown property, which is still used today for kayaking and fishing. But he purchased that property in 1843 and built what we know as the first dam across the Finley River. It was constructed of hard timber and was basically used as farm irrigation or water control for the nearby farms. He owned that property until 1867, and he sold it to a gentleman named Alexander Clapp. Now Clapp bought it with the idea of expanding it and actually turning the dam into a grain mill, since bread was, you know, a widely needed food source in the 1860s in this area. You know, this area is pretty rural, so this road right here eventually would have been the dirt road that takes you all the way to Riverdale. But you got to remember back then, you know, this is 30 miles away from Springfield, 15 miles or so from the center of Ozark, which would have been the next closest city. So he bought the mill, hoping to expand and provide a milling service to everyone, so everyone could bring their wheat and rye and grain, or whatever they grew, and they could bring it to this mill. So he started making improvements on the wooden dam and actually installed the first turbine at the property. During this time, it was about 10 years or so, he ended up selling the whole property to a guy named Homer. And Homer really took the idea that Clapp wanted to and really did expand it. He purchased, or after he purchased it, he built the general store. So this is if we were coming into Riverdale back then, kind of right along this way. But he built a general store, a post office. He built a 10-foot actual concrete dam. And then to finish it off, he constructed a 3-story grain mill on top of the turbine that Clapp had started to put in and get functioning. So here's actually the old general store. It still stands. And here's what's left of the mill. Some of the pictures I'll throw in here. So, this is what's left of where the turbine would have obviously been down here. The 3-story grain mill came up. This is a much higher up bridge than originally was here. They had some iron structure bridges down at that level, because you can also see how much higher we are than the Ben Turner General Store, which is the store that Homer had put in. So upon all the improvements that Homer Gilmore had made, a blacksmith opened up shop on the north side from his general store, and kind of this little collection of buildings really did offer a huge service to the neighboring farms and people that lived out here. they would bring, you know, their grains or whatever. They would bring him to Homer. He would use his mill and produce the flour that he would either take a portion of, or they would either bring goods that they would just trade, you know, straight over for, and then Homer would use those goods back in his general store. Everything really was traded around here, and there's kind of the idea was you only needed cash for taxes and medicine. So through all this trade he did, the mill he ended up calling White Rose Milling Company, and he operated it until 1905. In 1905, he sold it to an actual milling company with the intentions that this new company would come in and expand on the work he did. By 1905, when this new company took over, White Rose was delivering flour up to 30 miles away, and that's not including how hilly this area is. When the company took over, they actually had a pretty funny setback. Their first winter, it was actually a really harsh winter, and it froze the mill pond, the upper portion of the dam, so thick where they had to completely cut operations to the mill. There was no flow in the water. But the ice was so thick that they were able to cut chunks and blocks of ice out. They took these blocks of ice, they had dug some holes deep in the ground, and they just put ice in massive piles underground, completely buried it in sawdust. And by the time summer came, they were able to undig and pull out a majority portion of the ice and sold it for people to make ice cream. Because 2 years before that was the 1904 World's Fair in St. Louis and the introduction of the ice cream cone. So ice cream was the thing you could do, and you could make it with very simple ingredients. I've done it myself as a kid, and we're able to give ice to rural people in this area so they can make ice cream for the first time. It's pretty cool. I hope you enjoyed this. That is part one. We will do a part two to this, kind of the follow-up, the expansion of the mill and how it turned into producing electricity, and the time it operated as a summer camp. See you guys soon.